Hi lovelies, and welcome back to my channel. I have only ever done one bookshelf tour on this channel, and that was 8 months ago. And back then I had a lot less books. I had exactly 292 books then. And I also had some different shelves. These shelves behind me were originally half height shelves, and the bookshelves themselves only had 3 shelves to them. I now have these full length ones with 5 shelves. But the most significant change has been the number of books that I own now. As of today, I have 420. I don't quite know how I managed to get almost 130 more books in 8 months. We are not going to think about that. Because I have so many more books now, at the beginning of 2025, I did quite a big bookshelf reorganisation. I didn't film it, I just did it in my own time. So the places that books are have since changed a lot since the last time you saw them. And obviously I tend to film most of my videos at this angle here, so gradually over the past couple of months you've seen things change, but you haven't seen any of my other bookshelves, which I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 technically. So I am going to go shelf by shelf and basically show you them. I'm not going to talk in detail about them, maybe a little bit about the books, definitely the genre of the books on the shelves. So I am going to start with my main bookshelf, the one that you have seen so much. Let's do this. We are going to start at the bottom of my shelves this time. This is my mainly vampire shelf. I have the Crave series by Tracy Wolff, some J. Christoph books. I have Vampire Academy, some Geneva Lee, and I also have my Ava Reid. Now, these are not vampire books, they are fantasy, but they fit perfectly there, and they also fit the vibe. The colours match really well with all of the other ones. I'm very happy with this shelf. I like the colours, I like how it's basically all vampire. This is one of my favourites. Now let's move over there. Now this shelf is probably one of my least favourite. It is just a mishmash of colours. It's all fantasy, but it doesn't vibe very well. So I have my Brandon Sanderson, Elizabeth Lim, an Actie O book. I have a stack of some fantasy trilogies, and then my R.F. Kuang The Poppy War. I don't think this set of books and this set of books goes very well on this shelf. There is too much white, and with the actual white shelves that I have, it doesn't look the best. This is what I want to work on next when I next do my reorganisation. Let's go up one. Now this is one of my favourite shelves. This is actually quite a bit of a mix of genres. So genre-wise it isn't great. I have my V.E. Schwab books here, I have 8 books by her, and most of them are fantasy. Vicious and Vengeful I think are classed as sci-fi. And then for some reason right next to it I have 2 Jennifer Saint books which are technically classed as Greek mythology. And then these 2 books, this is The Crimson Moth and this is The Familiars by Leigh Bardugo. Both of them are fantasy. And then we do a bit of a genre shift. This is mysteries and thrillers over here. I have my Holly Jackson, my Frida McFadden, and my Natural series. I really love how red is a very prominent colour on this shelf, and I really like it visually. I don't think I will be changing this in the future. Let's move over. This sort of continues the theme from this shelf. We have thrillers and mysteries over here, and we lead in with some thrillers by Frida BKE Amide, and then into some more thrillery mysteries here. This is my Dark Academia stack. I don't think these are really classed as Dark Academia, but they're set in a school, so it kind of fits the vibe. But I have my Donna Tartt, I have If We Were Villains, which was my favourite book of 2024, and I have my Olivia Blake books here. These 5 books here are, again, a bit of a mishmash. They're all technically fantasy, I think. A Dowry of Blood might not be, that might be more gothic fiction, but honestly, they fit quite well there. They kind of match the red of Thieves' Gambit and Ace of Spades, so I don't hate it. I wish it did look a little bit better. And then I have Babel to kind of fit with the Dark Academia over here, but I didn't want too many hardbacks next to each other, so I spaced them out a bit. Now we have the only two romance shelves on this bookshelf. This is my first one. These are some of my favourite romance authors. There's only 3 authors on this shelf, in fact. I have my Lauren Asher stack here with all of her books that she's published. And then this goes into Stephanie Archer. These are small town romances and these are hockey romances. And then we go into Lucy Score. Once upon a time, I did have a goal of having all of my sports and hockey romances together, but that flew out of the window pretty quickly and never worked out. I do really like this shelf. I think honestly it does look a little bit boring. I'm thinking about maybe moving the Lauren Asher stack or moving some books around at some point, because it's not the most interesting looking. My other romance shelf is a little bit more interesting than that. I have a couple hardbacks for my Emily Henry books, then that goes into Casey McQuinston, Ali Hazelwood, Elsie Silver, and Liz Tom Ford. I like how this stack reaches up all the way to the top. I like the colours. Pink is very prominent on this shelf. Overall, one of my favourite shelves. Let's move up one. Okay, here is the next shelf. This is all young adult fantasy. I have my Tahira Murphy books, Mary L. Pearson, Chloe Gong, Sue Lin Tan, and Rachel Gillig. Also, I haven't really been talking about what books on the shelves I've read or not. On the 2 romance shelves that I just showed you, I have read every single book on them. On this shelf, it's just this stack here by Mary L. Pearson that I have yet to read. I've read all of these books here though. I really like My Little Flower on here. Again, my bookshelves aren't that prominently decorated. I see lots of people's bookshelves online that have so many trinkets and fake plants and they look so pretty. I am not at that stage yet though. Moving over one, I have another fantasy shelf. This is some more adult fantasy rather than young adult. I think all of these books here are adult and I think this stack is young adult though. I have actually read very few books. On this shelf I have only read the Guild series, well up to this point, and I've read the War of Lost Heart series here. So most of these books I have not read, but I am super excited for all of these as all of these books I have heard incredible things about. But yeah, I really like how this shelf looks in my opinion. And let's go to my final 2 shelves on these bookshelves. We'll start over here and then move to the next one. This is pretty much all a young adult apart from When the Moon Hatched. This book here is my only book facing outward. I wanted to have more, but I simply do not have the space at the moment, and I have had to tuck some books behind this one. So I have read quite a lot of books on this shelf. I have read all of these apart from Belladonna and Foxglove, and I've read these 4. I have not read these, but I have 3 books tucked behind there that I have read. I like this shelf. I like this shelf quite a lot, probably helped by the fact I have this book outward turned and it's beautiful. This fantasy shelf then leads into this shelf. This shelf starts with some fantasy books, so it's kind of flowing, but then it goes into literary fiction. These are all of my lit fic books, and I knew I wanted them all in the same place. These top 2 books up here I think are technically classed as romance, but from people who have read them, I've heard that they have strong literary fiction vibes. I would move them, but I literally do not have the space on any romance shelf to do so at the moment. I really like this shelf. I love literary fiction. I pretty much have loved all of the books in this section that I have read. I haven't read many of the fantasy books over here. I've only read Legendborn and Bloodmarked, but over here I have read several, including The Unmaking of June Farrow, Cleopatra and Frankenstein, all of the Taylor Jenkins Reid, This Is How You Lose the Time War, Yellowface, The Lost Bookshop, and these 2 over here. And that is it for my main shelf, the one that is often seen in the back of my YouTube videos. On top of the shelf, I do have some Lego, a fake plant, and some more Lego though. On to the next shelf. We will start over here while the lighting is still good. This is a very thin bookshelf. I have one on either side of my bed, which is over here. I have a couple of plants up top. And this top shelf, I have my Shadowhunters series by Cassandra Clare. I have some classics and some other random books. Yours from the Tower very much gives a classic novel vibe, which is why it's there. Fair Rosalind, not so much, but I had nowhere else to put it. Underneath that, I have a purely fantasy shelf. I'm going to be really honest, this is a mishmash of genres and books and authors. Most of the ones I've read, I've loved. The Cemetery Boys, Iron Widow, and the Serpent and Dove series. Yeah, not my favourite shelf currently. I am hoping to be able to do these books justice eventually. And then finally, I have a quite packed romance shelf. I have everything from Christina Lauren to Megan Brandy, Balcabra, Nisha Sharma, Rosie Danan, Simone Sultani. This is Rewitched by, I think, Lucy Jane Woods. And you may notice that there is a gap here. And that is where the current book that I'm reading typically lives. And that book is Get a Life, Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert. Let's move over to my other skinny shelf on the other side of my bed. We are going to start at the bottom this time. This is the only shelf that has not changed at all since I last did a bookshelf tour. This is my Lee Bardugo shelf with all of my Grishaverse books and also the Ninth House series, which I am still waiting for the third book to be announced, and it's been almost 2 years since I read them. But yes, nothing has changed here, but they have further up. This is another, I wouldn't say random fantasy shelf, it's just a series of books that are all of the same genre that fit quite nicely together. So I have my 2 very large Samantha Shannon novels, some other books here, and this series. And further up I have some more fantasy. This doesn't go quite so well, as I'm pretty sure these Hollow Vows and these Twisted Bonds are young adult, while I'm pretty sure the rest is adult fantasy, but they look quite nice together, especially Fourth Wing and Dark Age. They match really well. I also have some more greenery up at the top. Time to move on to my next shelf. The lighting is not going to be anywhere as good over here as we are further away from the windows, so things are going to look a little bit different on this side of my room. I have a lovely Lego bonsai tree at the top of this shelf, but it does look quite bare. I am planning on hoping to try and fix that at some point. As you can quite obviously see, the first 2 shelves of this bookshelf are all romance. You know what, I'm just going to show both of them in this single shot. That makes it a bit easier for me. So this is all romance, as you can tell from the very, very bright colours. I have some Mariana Zapata, Sarah Adams, Bolly Babalola, Lynn Painter, Hannah Bonham Young, Ashley Poston, Ava Wilder, Hannah Grace, Eleanor Armis, Lana Ferguson, Sarah Hawley, and Emily McIntyre all up here. I have read quite a lot on these 2 shelves. The only books I have left to read are this one, these 2, and these 3 here. I've read everything on this shelf down here. And on this shelf, I don't have quite so many authors. I have Ella Mays, Elle Kennedy, Lila Sage, Abby Jimenez, B.K. Borison, Laurie Gilmore, and Tessa Bailey. Let's move down one. Below those 2 romance shelves, I have some more romance that kind of leads down from the upper 2 shelves. I have Anna Huang and Chloe Walsh books. And then that leads quite nicely into some fantasy, and that basically dictates the rest of my shelf going down. As below that, I have all of my Sarah J. Maas books. I think I actually lied earlier. I might have 2 shelves that haven't changed since last time, and I think this is the second one. There might have been a slight move around, but I'm pretty sure this is basically exactly the same. And the final shelf on this bookshelf has more fantasy on it. Actually, no, that's a lie. I also have some dystopian. Honestly, these were kind of the books that I didn't originally find homes for during this reorganization. So I have some fantasy here, dystopian here, more fantasy. These are superhero fantasy books, which I don't know whether should be their own category. And then I have some more dystopian here. So again, a bit of a mishmash. That seems to be the theme with all of my shelves though. There's always one shelf that doesn't quite fit together. And honestly, there is another shelf on this bookshelf, but it's empty. I managed to actually unhaul some books and rearrange my bookshelves to the point where I have an entire shelf free. So that is something I am very excited about. And those are all of my main shelves. I have one shelf left though that I want to show you. This, my friends, is my overflow bookshelf. These are basically all of the books I have obtained since I reorganized my bookshelves. These are pretty much all of the books I have purchased so far in 2025. There's quite a lot of new releases, as you will see, and pretty much all of them are from the works, with the exception of these two, which I bought on Amazon. But yes, these are all of the books I will eventually need to find a home for. That was honestly more work than I remember it being, but now you have seen all 420 of my books and the layout that they're in. This will undoubtedly change, probably in a couple of months' time, where I decide to do a big reorganization, but this is something I've been wanting to do for a very long time now. I really wanted to do a bookshelf tour before I started working on my overflow shelf, but it didn't work out, so here it is. I hope you enjoyed this video, but I'm going to end it here now. Thank you very much for watching, and I will hopefully see you next time.